now I should have, I guess, done this first. I'm gonna unmute everybody and then remute you, but allow you to unmute yourself if you actually want to talk.
Yeah, let's hear what you have to say.
I'm trying to remember where manage participants. There we go. Okay, so
We need to make a hotkey out of that.
Yeah. There. Okay. Now, if you guys want to literally unmute yourself, you can ask a question or still use the chat.
Yeah. And
I saw at some point MC had I don't know if he was being serious about troubleshooting something. We're fine with that, but let's at least for the first 10 minutes, if people have either questions or comments on what we discussed, chime on in.
No, it's a too small a task. I love that. That's yeah.
I use it once a month. Yeah, that one would be,
yeah. But still, that great one. That's for sure. So everybody has a chance to actually talk now, and I don't know if MC actually wanted us to solve it or if it was him just having a specific problem and he was actually willing to pay $5 to have it solved, which is, I think a lot of people will actually happily pay $5 to have whatever they're struggling with solved. So that's for sure.
The other thing I just thought of now, which is it's on the overall topic, but when that whole comparison of Python versus AutoHotkey was when it's just so easy to compile a script in AutoHotkey, and there are compilers in Python, but I just found issues at times with different ways to compile the code, and that was one thing I loved with AutoHotkey was depending on who I was helping. If I was helping them regularly, I'd say, let's install AutoHotkey, and then I'll give you the script and you run it. But more often than not, I would just compile the program and give it to them, in a second. And that was really convenient.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. I do feel like it is a very short way from production to actually just delivering it to someone without much hassle. So yeah.
Well, I don't see any other questions or comments coming up, but I see MC's thing about he wants to. Is it highlight a word or a work? I got to think it's a word in PDF. Word, okay. And would that be basically hitting Control Find and then finding it? Is that, or do they have? They do have a highlight tool, don't they? And it depends, of course, what you're using, what PDF reader you're using.
Exactly my thought, Joe. Depends on what PDF reader you are actually.
The simplest way that I would probably just try it is just hitting Control F, pasting in the word, with AutoHotkey that you're searching for, and then hit, either send the return key or hit Enter or hit Tab and whatever.
Okay, he actually wants a word within the PDF to be changed to being highlighted. Is that what you're supposing?
Well, yeah, apparently, all right, because it's not. Well, there are so I've actually, and I never shared it back to the forum. I meant to. You and Jackie, I think years ago you had written some stuff. Yeah, I was reading your stuff on using. There is a COM object if you have the installer with Adobe, right? Mm-hmm. And you documented a little bit of stuff on it. This was several years ago. It might even be the old forum. And I had a friend that was he has these PDFs reports he gets, and he would have to basically they were printouts. And he was literally doing, like you said, he would look at them, and then Excel, he had to retype them. There were like 20 pages and 50 lines on each page, and he was literally retyping it in. And I'm like, I'm like, what are you doing? And he explained it. I'm like, can you share that file with me? And so, I found a couple ways. Word actually will open a PDF. Saving it back to a PDF you could do. I don't know how the highlighting will work, but you can use Word, and I did that. But I did get the other COM object, which I forget, it's some bizarre name. It's not Adobe, the thing you use. But I was able to do a lot more with it, where I would grab the text, convert it, export it, do what I want with it. I got to think you could do it with that COM object. You probably could highlight a word. So when you say a highlight, does that literally mean like the yellow highlighting tool will show up on the word, or that you'll bold it?
Yeah, I thought about that as well, because of course AutoHotkey doesn't actually have any real built-in way of working with PDF data, and even the PDF data is something where, as he suggests himself, a command line program.
Yellow background. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is a highlight, if I remember right. I think I uninstalled it the other day. Adobe.
You uninstalled it or whatever.
The professional. I was having these errors and stuff, and I just said I don't really use it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But let me. Yeah, okay. All right, I'm not going to mess with this. But now I can't even get out of it. Are you sure you want to cancel? Yes. Anyway, I'll take a look if what I have, if I can see anything about literally highlighting it.
Yeah, but I would guess my best take on it when working with PDFs is finding something. Adobe isn't free. And Professional is the one that actually has the COM object. But you could probably find other smaller, more maybe even open source or something like that, programs that actually work with PDF data. And you could probably even find one that has a command line interface. So
actually, so I can show you this, and this will at least give you topically some of the names of the things that I looked at. I think I have it under PDF. So there was a PDF to text Ghost script. I think that does some of what Jackie's describing. Arch Exchange, that is the actual COM object for Adobe for PDFs. And then I was using Word to actually open up the PDF file and grab the text from it, and then, but I don't remember if I was converting it back to a PDF, which I guess you could still do, but I don't think it would be what your goal is.
But
is this being recorded so I can play this back later? This
it is.
MC.
Yes, we share it after, a bit after, like tonight or something,
Okay, I do appreciate the help. It's just been a sticking point for me, so any leads are great.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this though. What's the quote unquote problem with actually opening the file as opposed to using a command line interface and never seeing it?
The way my script is right now, I use PDF to text to turn the file into a text document. So everything is saved as a variable at that point. And then I do everything. I put a bunch of PDFs in a row in an order that I say. I then annotate all those PDFs using CPDF. And so the only thing I haven't figured out to do is highlight, because PDF to text, CPDF, PDF PK, none of those have a highlight option. So then, open it. I guess I could say, okay, now that I have this file, open, and then go to page whatever X, find that. In this case, I actually want to do a number. Find that number, highlight that number, close the PDF. But it just seems cumbersome when everything's already done in memory without opening it already.
Sure.
That's just the last step I can't get. That's where I am.
Yeah. My guess would be, and anyone chime in on this, but I think of like a PDF as almost like rich text format, right? There's around a given word in the PDF file. Let's say your word was Bob, you wanted to highlight. When you actually manually went in and highlighted it and then closed it, that PDF file, the text, even though let's say it's a binary file, right? It probably still has text you might be able to detect that would have that the tags, or for lack of a better term, right, wrapped around it. Maybe what you could do is do a 3-word document highlight the middle word that you want, save it, and then use something to look at the file. And if you can, find a way to reliably, find it,
Got it.
maybe then you'd see, of course, what it's wrapped with. Maybe, right? I don't know. It's at least something I'd look at.
No, I'll check that out. That might, whatever solves the problem, right?
Right.
So,
yeah. Because the other option is, you just pop open the file. This Arch Exchange, do you have the Adobe full version?
At home, I have Adobe X Pro. At work, I just have Adobe X.
I don't remember if that's, what level that is, but
I don't.
Adobe X Pro is like Adobe Acrobat X Pro is like the high end. It's just a couple versions late or back.
Yeah, the version of Adobe you need to actually have access to either the JavaScript version or the COM version is just the full Adobe program. So as long as it's not the reader, then you should have access to these. But again, when accessing it from AutoHotkey, it's not very well documented because there is no true examples online. There is mine. You might be able to find those on the forum, but I don't think anybody else really have written anything in AutoHotkey that uses these objects.
Yeah, that was honestly, Jackie, why I meant to go back and publish what I did, because that one thread is the only thread when I was looking into it that I could find that had anything. And then another, just a really fun aha, this, like, see up here, it says JavaScript for Adobe. Some, maybe Jackie knows, JavaScript, this is Adobe's JavaScript. It's not the normal JavaScript that we think of with the web. They have their own JavaScript language. And I'm like, what? what the hell? But anyway, you see in here in this document, I found some stuff that talks about highlight, right? So it would just take some plug, and then I have a little bit of stuff I can share with you that I did adapt in some, like, let's take a quick look here. But I was basically opening the file and then telling it what kind of file I wanted to save it as or open it as. But this get.js object, these were things that I borrowed some from what Jackie's did and then had to tweak it to it. Like the version you had that you did was, oh, that was an interesting thing. So I was processing documents that sometimes had images in them, a scanned image, like handwritten and this and that, right? And printed text. But I would export it from Word, and sometimes the document would use OCR on it and give me the raw text, and I could have it. But sometimes it dumped it as an image, and I'm like, what the? It was driving me nuts. And what I finally theorized was the version, because I was using the same version you had, Jackie. It was an older version of Adobe, and then I thought maybe the OCR wasn't as good, 5 years ago or whenever that was, and that maybe the newer version does a better job. And sure enough, when I got the newer version, it was converting nearly everything to text instead of, missing a lot of it. Fun fact, it was like, holy cow. But
yeah, it also depends on the way that the actual PDF is made, because some programs would make PDFs that were images. So there was only the OCR option to actually get the text out of it.
Yeah.
But again, if you used Adobe's own versions from something that was actual text, then it would also make the PDF into a text version, so to speak.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, what I feel is interesting, or what I kind of made me stop actually working on these examples, is I didn't feel that too many people actually had the full version of Adobe.
That's right. Yeah.
And to me, it would be much easier to find a command line tool online that would give you the same functionality. And again, even the Microsoft programs are also paid, but a lot more people actually have the full versions. That's at least how I view it.
Yeah, that was why I tried all the other things I did. MC, what was the name of the one you said you're already using? You think you said
Adobe Acrobat Pro 10.
No, the one you were using for like opening the file. You mentioned you're already automating opening the file and doing stuff.
So what I do is I have a series of PDF files. I want to put them in certain order. The program puts them in that order for me using PDF TK to put them in order. I then use CPDF to put on the annotations that I want where I want them, and it puts a header on them. And then as part of putting them in the right order, I need to read the document to tell it which pages to put where. And so each of the single PDFs is read by converting it using PDF to text to read the text in the document. So basically, I just have a text file in memory at that time.
Yep.
So PDF to text to read the files, and then arrange the file names in order. PDF TK to put all those files, concatenate them into one. And then C, it's actually PDF. It's C, P as in Peter, DF, to do my annotations.
Cool.
And like I said, none of them highlight. But that's one of the things that they would like me to do on my work. So basically what happens is I have all this done, and then I go through and I highlight a few words.
Right.
Which is very painful because that goes from taking 30 seconds to taking several minutes.
Well, yeah. But that I'd still say, even though it sucks, right? And I am the furthest away from this, but you could automate opening that file, finding the word, highlighting it, and closing it with AutoHotkey, right? It's not great, but at least you have to do it, right? But I'm with you. Like the PDF to text, the thing I didn't like was you lose the structure of the page. Like I had certain like tabs and tables and line breaks, and I was trying to write regular expressions to look for certain things, and I was losing that structure. The Word actually, PDF to using Word to dump it did a great job of keeping the structure. I was surprised.
Okay, I might have to remember that.
Cool. Yeah, and you'll have my email, right? Send me an email, and I'll share what I have, and we can play with some stuff. I'll do a little research and see if I can see anything on it real quickly.
I'm also Gibbons on the AutoHotkey forum.
What was it?
In case you Gibbons, Gibbon.
Okay. I wanted to back up here just a bit real quickly because I saw Joe's question about basically where when you're creating for large audiences, how are you selling software, right? Is it on a website, on Amazon, eBay, Shopify, SendOwl? I don't even know what SendOwl is.
Hello?
Yeah?
Something is off with my sound.
Oh. Hopefully he can hear me. Yeah, and he's gone. So, yeah, I have, of course, for most part, most people aren't going to say it's AutoHotkey code, right? I don't know where people are selling it. I've done stuff like with LinkedIn, by the way, and so I've made at least, I'd say, over 10,000 selling things to do stuff on LinkedIn, right? And there's a lot more potential there. It's just a matter of me trying to decide if I want to make money doing it, and then of course, because it's the other thing is like depending on how specific your audience is, there's a lot of work involved to target the audience, to create pages, to SEO. I see I'll unmute you here, Jackie.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
I a moment ago I talked and nobody actually heard me, but that doesn't really matter. I had a problem.
Oh, I heard you. I was just ignoring you.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Did you hear I was going back to Joe's first question, one question of where are people basically selling their scripts? Is it eBay, Amazon, Shopify, Sendowl, our own website, right? Obviously, your own website, depending on how much traffic you have going to it and how good you are at SEO, and also how specific, like let's go back to that example with LinkedIn, the stuff I've done on LinkedIn. I wouldn't sell my LinkedIn stuff necessarily on the Automator, website, right? Because I want it positioned, because my background's in market research and marketing, right? I need to position it as a LinkedIn tool that, I want everything around that site built around LinkedIn, right? And how it'll save you time. And so I would create its own website if I was doing this. And this is why it's time consuming, right? I got to create a website. I got to get content. I need to look at the SEO stuff, and then, target my audience, and then find ways to drive people there. And all of it's doable, right? Don't get me wrong. It's just, I don't want to half-ass things, right? If I want to do something, I'm going to try to actually commit to it and do it.
Yeah, I'd say I actually have a few websites, but the one with AutoHotkey, at least, has given me a few smaller tasks, but it's been very small compared to just what I've gotten from the forum, just from being present there and people simply reaching out to you without me actually going looking for it. And other than that, it's been knowing other people within the community and them kind of pointing my direction, or me myself figuring out a pain point, as we talked about earlier, for some people that I either know, or a community that has to do with other stuff, where again I kind of get a foot in the door, and I often set up some kind of, I don't know, one of the methods I used, I almost had like a period game going on, pyramid game. I don't know. Do you know what that is, Joe?
Yeah, I think so.
Where the first person would get a discount if he got one more person on, and stuff like that. And it worked quite well. I got up to a few hundred people actually buying that. But again, it really does depend on what it is, because as you said yourself, Joe, actually setting up all of the sales funnel yourself, that takes a lot of time and effort.
It does. Yeah.
So
yeah. Besides, of course, actually writing the program, depending how complex it is. So yeah, it can be a big machine for it. But I do think, now see, I vaguely remember Amazon did have where you can post your code. Is that right? And you can sell it. Is that right? Do I remember that?
I'm unsure.
Okay, because I know apps, right? You can do apps.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't remember if you can do the actual, of course you could still do like they do with Microsoft Office, right? You can put it on there as a product and then just basically give them a link later.
Yeah. I can't remember Amazon doing with the code, but they have so many different things.
Yeah.
So yeah, probably. But yeah, and some of it is quite old. I remember a couple of weeks ago I was in on something. I can't remember if they called it work or tasks or something like that. And it was still from Amazon. And you could go in and someone would offer you, let's say, $1 for taking a survey or something. And it's still fully through Amazon, and it still needed to be actually accepted into the program to actually take these tasks from other people. But the interface was just ancient. But I'm still sure it's something they had started way back when that just still lived on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw Jean's question about code protection and license management. This is the one which Jackie, remind me, you use these digital downloads, but I don't think you had this add-in. Is that right, or this plugin?
No, I've not chosen to actually buy that
But it was going to be like a couple hundred as a one-time fee, if I remember right. But it did an amazing amount of stuff of keeping track of who has a license and checking that they paid, and I think you could even pay through it and doing all the stuff. It was funny because I was going to use it for the stuff I had designed for LinkedIn, and then I quit my job, and like seriously, like 4 days later, LinkedIn totally redesigned their website and screwed up everything I had. Not that I was relying on that for my income, but it was funny. I'm like, son of a.
Yeah, I tested this while it was in their beta version, and it is workable just fine. And as soon as you have a WordPress website where you have easy digital downloads, which is a free plugin, and you extend it with this, then you can manage all of the circle. So people will come in, buy the digital download through that plugin, and they will be able to either get a license with that download, or you can also just give the software out to them, and then just have people come in to this portal and simply buy a license. So they just need to enter the license key. The most interesting part is, of course, that you need to program all of the interactions between your website and this plugin into your script. So that's probably the hard part.
So also as an alternative, instead of doing this initially with the thing with LinkedIn, what I did, and of course, no matter what you do, right, people can hack it. But what I did was I said, hey, for each LinkedIn person, when you log into your site, your ID is up in the top right, and there you actually have this really long, crazy, unique ID for you, right? And so because my thing was around LinkedIn anyway, I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have people, when they launch my script, it goes to their page, and I go and get that value. And then I put that value into a text file on my server, right? And then my script says, go look for this value on this server and this page. If it's there, proceed. And if it's not there, I gave them a temporary where they could do 10 things, and that was it, right? But it was one of those, like, you know what? Once I build up enough demand, I'll buy this thing. Of course, that died. But it was super easy to implement, right? The same thing with the footprint option. And I had posted, when I send this out, you'll see that this was, I had asked, I ran this test, and it was, I asked people in the forum to run the program and give me back their motherboard like ID. And sure enough, almost everybody, it came back with a unique value for their motherboard. And so I'm like, oh, I could go record that, put that on my server, right? And then, of course, it'd be tied to that computer. And of course, if they want it on more than one computer, then, okay, well, you got to pay for multiple licenses. Or you can say, well, I'll update your code to your new computer. But it's another pretty simple, easy way. The thing is, with hardware, this WMI task link, it lists there, you can get virtually any piece of hardware, right? So you could say, well, I'm going to make sure it has this motherboard and this RAM and this CPU and this CD-ROM and this mouse and this keyboard. But people change stuff, right? And so I thought, for me, I'm like, you know what? My guess is very, very rare people change their motherboard, right? Almost anything else, they'll swap it out. Motherboards, very rare. So that was why I went with that.
Yeah, and as we've talked about with AutoHotkey before, is that AutoHotkey is open source. It is a scripted language. So even though you can do a few different types of stuff to kind of secure your code, you can't really keep people that are determined to get at it out. And as soon as they have the raw code, they can just remove all of your licenses stuff. So don't use too much power on actually securing it by this means. Put in a fair amount and then stop. Don't try to go 100% because that won't work anyway.
Well, but just to stress, that's not an AutoHotkey thing, right? That's any language. There is nobody can ever hack this, right? It's, hey, that's what the locks are on doors, right? They keep out the 98% that just try the lock, and you're like, oh, it's locked. Okay. And the professional thieves, they're always going to find a way in. So you do just a little bit to kind of make it a little difficult, obscure it just a little bit, and you know what? It's good enough.
Yeah, yeah. And again, I've seen mentions of different ways of doing it on the forum as well. And I think one of the most elaborate ones I've seen or heard about, might be the better way of saying it, is for someone who gives you a program. That program has none of the actual code. It only knows enough to receive a package from the web with the actually compressed and encrypted AutoHotkey code that then, with the right license, can be decrypted and then run as a stream on that computer. And that is the most elaborate one I've heard about, where, yeah, he is probably as close to it as you will get without a hotkey.
And so I was responding with Jean here of like, but it's so easy to basically extract the source from AutoHotkey. I'd still say is, you know what, I have foregone trying to sell executables to anybody who is actually honestly, I don't want to make money from them, right? They're my kin, right? You're my buddies. It's the general audience, the non-programmers, the people who aren't willing to take a little bit of time to better themselves. I'm okay making money off of those guys, right? And those guys, the likelihood they're going to reverse engineer what you did or even spend the time, right? They're not, because also my things are, at the most, let's say it's $100 at the most, right? Usually it's $5-10. It's not worth their time, right? It's so,
No, and that's also mostly the audience that I'm selling to, is people that could really not be bothered to actually learn AutoHotkey. They don't even know which language I've made the stuff in, which would be their first hurdle, maybe. They could also get something like Resource Hacker or whatever, and if you have done nothing to your compiled script, that wouldn't even be needed. But again, lots and lots of methods, and there's even things written in AutoHotkey that can break AutoHotkey stuff. So whatever you do, don't stress actually trying to secure your code too much, because maybe one of your customers will break it and he will share it to his friends or whatever, and you will lose out on a few customers. But if what you have made actually is popular enough, that doesn't really matter. Because, hey, you can get Windows for free. Hey, you can get Microsoft Office for free. You can get almost anything for free if you go looking for it, because someone will have actually broken it.
Right. Not that I would ever do that. No.
No.
This mem I just put up here, it was one of my favorite things in it, because at work I was like the idea guy, right? I would come up with the ideas, and but I would always be kind of concerned that like I would share with my colleagues and they're going to take what I did and run with it. And then I finally realized, like, as much as I even try to get them to steal it, they just don't even get it, right? And so it just gets back to, you know what, we're people on this call, trust me, you guys are the ones doing stuff. You're not. Don't worry about other people who are doing stuff, right? That's the laggers, that they're just lazy, right? Or however you want to phrase it, right? Lazy has a bad connotation to a lot of people, but the vast majority of people are just they're not going to go dig and try to figure out a way to crack it, right? Not if you keep it reasonable, decently priced.
Yeah.
Wow. I got a lot of views on that. Nice.
Yeah, it's the face and the quote.
Yeah,
apparently,
I actually
quotes and faces are good.
Last night I watched the Steve Jobs movie. It was interesting overall.
Mm-hmm. I've seen what was it, Pirates of Silicon Valley or something. a movie made some years ago where they kind of paired and told the story about Steve and his work and Bill and his work. Okay, so Joe had to just get up there.
My wife's yelling.
Oh, fair enough.
Not in a bad way. She's just
no.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I felt that was a good movie as well, because they kind of started with them just before actually getting into to computing, and then moved until they both had their separate businesses. So they had them actually scrambling around, pitching to IBM, and sitting in their garage, building their first prototypes and different stuff like that. So that was a good movie as well, but it doesn't really focus on either one of them.
And it was the Pirates of Silicon Valley?
I think that was the name of it. And it was, I think it was something like that.
There you go. I'll check it out.
That looks about right, yeah.
Cool.
Again, some years ago, as you can see, it's made even 18 years ago, I see now. I didn't watch it 18 years ago. I probably watched it some 8 years ago, something like that. I see it has an okay rating of 7.3, which is okay in my book, at least. So I felt it was good. Or interesting, let's put it at that. I wasn't kind of thrilled with it. It didn't have these real thriller points, but it did have some toe crunching points. Where it was stuff like, really? Did that happen? Was that how they got that? Did they really steal that from each other, or
you know? Which, sorry, but it just dawned on me as like they are the perfect examples of this, which is where years ago I always felt embarrassed because I'd say I'm not a coder, I just borrow other people's stuff and I might tweak it. And then from years of watching documentaries like this, like that's what freaking everybody does, right? Nobody actually writes. It's so rare they write something. You know, you go out and find someone else and you adapt it to what your needs are, right? So you're no longer embarrassed. I mean, it's smart, right? Why would I go reinvent something entirely when I can borrow and tweak?
Yeah, absolutely. Did we actually get through the entire deck?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, was there any other, and we can, if there's more questions on the PDF thing, I just wanted to get to those other questions. So also, Joe had asked me just a question about pricing in general, and my background's in survey research, and so value is tricky. You know, it's really in the eye of the beholder, right? And I can find the document. I'm trying to remember what it's called because I could search for it on my computer. But it's I have a thing where you can ask like 5 questions. You say you can go to find 20 of your friends, or at least 20 people who would be your potential target market, right? That have that mindset, and explain to them, here's what my script does, right? Here's what my program. Don't call it script because then they take off 20%.
Yeah.
Here's what my program does. You know, what is the least amount of money you think you'd pay for it? What is the most amount of money you think you'd pay for it? What is, and then there's 2 or 3 other questions. But basically, you get the min and the max values of you get a range, right, of like an acceptable price range of where you could probably price it, right? It's a super easy way to at least get some fathom of an idea of what people are willing to pay for something.
Yeah, the thing I'm selling currently is to me kind of high priced, but I got that price point from a person really in the midst of the people who actually buy it, and I was kind of like, you really believe they'll pay that much? I didn't think that it was movable at that price point. And he said, hey, you know what? They use that amount of money each day, maybe, on this task. I was like, yeah, but still, would they really be willing to pay that for? Yeah, but you know what? The thing that you're selling, that will make them even more than what they're already paying the same amount for. So as soon as they realize that, they'll be standing in line to actually buy.
That's right.
Apparently he seems to be right, because I've not heard any bad mouthing about the price yet. So either it's too low or it's just right.
This is that article that I had, but it's a nice graph to kind of show. There's the, you know, what is the minimum, like basically there's a low point where you said, what if I was offering you to do automate LinkedIn to get you a job and it's $1, right? You would think it's so cheap it's not going to work, right? So there's that minimum of where it's too cheap and it's too expensive. And so anyway, this gives you the overall, this range in here, this is where your acceptable prices would be. And in this case, it's between 20 and 30, I don't know, whatever dollars.
Yeah. I'd say with the Fiverr we had earlier, that was actually my internal initial thought when I saw that. But I can't get any kind of things of value for $5.
Yeah, that's right.
Because it
stopped me from using it, honestly.
Yeah. In Denmark, $5 is maybe what a bag of chips actually costs. And to me, that really doesn't leave enough room for someone to sit down, understand whatever the task is, and then do it and deliver something back for me. Just the first part of that, those $5 would have been spent many times over. So to me, $5 was quite low, and still is quite low. But again, the people taking on the tasks might take $5 3 times to actually be willing to actually do it. Right. But again, it's because they are placed somewhere else in the world where $5 is just that much more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's why it's really important to realize you need people in the mindset of your target market, right? Mm-hmm. And the more they represent your target market, the more accurate and better you'll have it coming up with an estimate. But do not in any way ever equate what it costs you to create it to what they're going to pay, right? Absolutely, never ever.
No.
Because it's just some people you're like, oh my God, they use it so much, right? It can save an amazing amount of time or accuracy or whatnot. And actually I have other research that talks about when you start a price off really low, you are telling the customer your product is not valuable, right? And so you undercut yourself and you can never get a premium. Because some people think I'll charge a low introductory price to get adopters and then I'll crank it up. But more often than not, that becomes a failure because everyone expects that price to be low and you can never move it up.
Yeah, most people will probably know it from some kind of phone game or whatever. And when you actually look at whatever the virtual crystals, in-game money, whatever, you can buy 5 of those for, let's say, $1 or 99 cents, and you can buy 15 of them for $2, and then it goes up, and the last one is you can get 4,000 of them for $100, and you're like, but who the whatever you would call people who use $100 on virtual money in a game will use that much money on that? But if you look at companies on most sold packages, it's not the lowest one, and it's not the highest one that's the most popular. It's almost always the one in the middle, or the one they say is the most valuable for the money.
Actually, there's a fair amount of research also shows companies will put in a really expensive alternative to the second one because no one, like bottles of wine too in a restaurant, right? Almost no one pays $200 for a bottle of wine, but they'll see that other one for like, $97. And you're like, well, I'm not getting that one, but this one is, it's below the top, so I'll go with that. And that was really what they're trying to sell, right?
Yeah.
So the things around it. Also, and there's also research to support this, end everything in a 9. 9s are magic numbers. You see it in the stores, but trust me, ending at a 9 increases sales. It's crazy.
I actually saw research done on pricing recently, and apparently our brain can easily enough figure out that the thing to
1999. Yeah.
1999 is actually $20. That's no problem for us. If someone asked me what's the price of that, you would easily convert it to $20 and you wouldn't even think about it. But you let yourself being tricked into believing that it's actually under $20. So that's just something that you do yourself, which is kind of weird. So we are allowing ourselves to actually believe that it's a little bit cheaper, even though it's only 1 cent. But still.
Yeah, I actually, I have a great book talks about, it's amazing that this guy did a ton of research in showing how even though they bumped the price up, they ended it in a 9 and it actually did more sales than a cheaper price at like the even dollar value. It was, it's crazy.
Yeah, I heard, a few years ago, I was following a guy on, what was it, how to make money online or something like that. Smarter, not cheaper, whatever it was. I can't remember. He was actually making had a lot of success with actually selling stuff online and making money by just having a website and stuff like that. And he had started by selling a guide to actually completing the architectural exam. So everybody that needed to take this exam to actually get their degree, they were, all of them needed some things so they could prepare for the test. So, but there was no learning material, there was no guide, there was nothing online that actually told them what the test would need for them to be able to do to complete it. I can't explain it much better than that, because he didn't actually cheat or anything for them. He just made material available so they had an idea of what they were getting into.
Yeah.
And he had valued it at $17 or something like that. And after a while, people actually told him, I would have been willing to pay triple that amount. And others saying that that's very low priced. And he actually, with some consulting with another guy, figure out that, hey, I'll bump it up to $27. So that's quite a bump for a piece of digital paper. And the sales went up. Because people perceived it as having more value, and it's weird. So the price of whatever you are selling, it's a good idea to actually research whatever market you have and try and prices like that, instead of thinking that, hey, this is just a small script, I've made it in AutoHotkey, something that people actually laugh about when they hear it and stuff like that. But the value of whatever you make doesn't really come from what you made it in.
No, or how much time you put into it.
No,
right?
It's it's what the customer is willing to pay that matters.
This, by the way, so I don't know if you guys have seen them on Amazon. These are, I actually made some AutoHotkey products. So if you happen to go onto Amazon or are interested, and talking about pricing, right? This was a struggle, but when I actually, I had to buy these things in bulk and then ship them, and then Amazon takes, 15% of whatever you're selling it for. Plus, I mean, it was just like, wow, I didn't want to price them this high, but I'm like, man, it's ridiculous. Pricing is tricky, but there is a lot. People infer a higher price is more value.
Mm-hmm.
Which is also why you go down that shareware route, right? And it's like there's no recovery because people are like, it was free. It's not, which actually it's interesting. Getting back to the adopting thing, also, that could be part of the problem because I know, this is 30 years ago, but like in Africa, they used to give away birth control, right? And then people didn't use it, but they started charging people like $1 a month. And basically, when you're paying for something, you're much more likely to actually use it, right? Because there was a cost to you. And so possibly by charging for the stuff you do, I should charge people for my interventions when I sit down with them. I usually offer people a 1 hour sit down where I talk to them about AutoHotkey and how we can tweak it to their needs and this and that. And I've done that, I don't know how many times, 60 more probably. But maybe I should say is that's for $30, well, I'm sorry, $39.99. I'll sit with them for an hour and walk through, and we'll have at the end of it 3 different scripts, or at least things that are automated that they can use.
Yeah. You could use that hour for clearing up the 3 pain points they have on a daily basis or whatever, and then give them a script that relieves some of it or whatever. Yeah, that's probably a great idea. Cook Country, Illinois, is that what IL stands for, or is that something else?
Yeah, Illinois, yes. Yeah.
Has no such qualms? No. Okay, I haven't followed that. I can read.
And Mason was asked about e-commerce. We touched on it as far as some of the places you might go and can sell, like Freelancer, Donation Coder, Code Canyon, Flatter, Fiverr, I forget, Upwork, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The other ones, I need to reorganize this into more on their topic than there are, but well, and I am curious here. Let's if Amazon does, if I can buy literally scripts, where would that be? In here somewhere? No.
Software? Who knows?
I thought at one point there was a way to sell, and maybe I'm just thinking about the apps, right? Because they have an app store,
mm-hmm.
And maybe it's not scripts, but it Amazon is pretty amazing because the audience, again, the overall audience going there is unbelievable size-wise, and once we break out of targeting AutoHotkey users, right? Again, audience is huge, or can be huge. So it would be a great place to be able to sell. But I don't know, like, why couldn't we just create, something like this and sell it, right? And then have a digital, because they even have digital downloads through Amazon. So I got to think there's a way to do this if we wanted to.
Yeah, the most likely, if as you said, they already have digital downloads, you could probably make some kind of Windows program, but still you needed to actually move people that way over.
Well, and that was actually what I was going to rebut myself was, I don't, and trust me, I'm geeky as it gets. I don't go to Amazon to buy, scripts and programs to automate things. I wouldn't be looking there. Now, of course, it could show up in a Google search and drive you there, but I wouldn't be looking on Amazon right now, at least, for it. So it would have that issue. But there are ways, you can host it elsewhere, and then you can actually do Stripe, right? You could actually collect your money through Amazon if you wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Ferry's wife is calling. Okay, tell her we said hi. The boss. We know the boss.
Yeah, the boss. Yeah. Need to make the boss happy. That's fair enough.
Where are you, Ferry? I'm curious. I know it's one. It sucks to have these at one time for a worldwide thing. I know for everybody, but where are you out of?
Netherlands, he says.
Oh,
So,
I didn't see it. Oh, really? Oh, well, then you and Jackie know each other then.
yeah, sure. Yeah, just a drive away.
He's out of Denmark.
Yeah, exactly.
That's funny.
So, yeah, and it's almost shorter than when you go to work, Joe.
Jackie was, because I'm in Dallas, and he's like seeing all the hurricane stuff in Houston. He's like, man, you're right. I'm like, it's like 450 miles away. I'm like, yeah, we're, Texas is a big state.
Yeah.
I guess actually we're at the time anyway. Does anybody have any other questions? Comments?
Let it rip. Let's hear them. While we're still here. No? Well, then we did a good job, I hope, Joe.
That's right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, all right.
Totally.
Well, hopefully we'll see you guys next month, and I'll take a look at what Jack and I will chat about our what topics we want to cover, but we'll use some of what you wrote as an insight to think it through.
Yeah, absolutely. So, bye.
Bye, guys.